Chapter 1. After my girlfriend, Victoria Fairchild, returned from a month-long business trip with Julian Hayes, her old flame, she noticed I had changed. When she helped Julian snatch my project, I no longer threatened to quit in anger. Instead, I bent over backwards, diligently helping him write the proposal. When she destroyed the design I'd painstakingly completed so Julian could get the year-end bonus, I didn't try to prove my case anymore. Instead, I took the fall, letting her punish me as she saw fit. Even when she wanted to give Julian an unconventional promotion to general manager, I wasn't angry. I even voluntarily offered up all my shares in the company for her to distribute freely. Victoria wondered why I had suddenly become so obedient. Julian was smug. "It must be your cold shoulder treatment working," he told her. "See, didn't I tell you? Let him experience losing you once, and he'll behave." It dawned on Victoria. Smiling, she praised my newfound sensibility, promised me a promotion, and, unprecedentedly, told me I could propose to her. But she seemed to have forgotten that during our silent treatment period, she had already signed my resignation agreement, and I had already broken up with her. From then on, it was a clean break. We had nothing more to do with each other. "This project proposal is urgent. Finish it before the end of the day," Victoria Fairchild stated coldly, tossed a thick stack of files heavily onto my desk, and turned to leave. Once her figure disappeared around the corner, my colleagues swarmed around my desk, chattering. "Honest, aren't these Julian Hayes' projects? On his projects are the toughest demanding requirements, hard to find data. Forget finishing by tonight, you might not even finish by tomorrow evening." Victoria is way too biased towards him. He doesn't do his own projects, just dumps them on others. They gathered around me, speaking freely. I knew perfectly well they weren't really defending me, they just loved watching the drama unfold. Everyone knew that the president, Victoria Fairchild, was my girlfriend, yet she heavily favored my arch-nemesis, Julian Hayes. Not only had she unconventionally promoted Julian to project department manager, but she had also handed him a multi-million-dollar project that I had spent a month securing and over another month bringing close to completion. When I objected, Victoria held a public vote to decide the project's ownership. These same colleagues, while pretending to sympathize with me, unanimously voted for Julian. Afterward, they explained it away, claiming they bowed to Victoria's pressure and asked me to look after the new colleague. Similar incidents happened many times after that. My colleagues were still feigning indignation on my behalf. This time, however, instead of storming into Victoria's office to confront her as I used to, I calmly accepted the project files. Seeing this, several colleagues stared wide-eyed, about to say more. But just then Victoria walked down from upstairs. They immediately clammed up and scurried back to their desks. Victoria seemed to be in a good mood and ignored their furtive movements. She instructed me to leave the completed proposal on her desk. Seeing me nod, she clicked away on her high heels without a backward glance. She wore exquisite makeup and a skirt that ended just at her knees. It didn't take a genius to figure out she was heading out to meet Julian. It had been like this for years. It started when I found chat logs of Victoria and Julian wishing each other good night. When I couldn't help but question her, Victoria accused me of being petty. In a fit of anger, she controversially hired Julian into the company. To punish my suspicion, she deliberately favored Julian, taking him to various social events. She even publicly served him food and wiped his mouth at a company dinner. If I got angry, she gave me the silent treatment. If I apologized, she seized the opportunity, rallying colleagues to lecture me, all agreeing that I, as a man, wasn't magnanimous enough. For a long time, I constantly reflected, wondering if my own lack of broad-mindedness had led to this situation. It wasn't until later, when I accidentally discovered Julian was her white moonlight, the idealized crush from her past, that I finally understood. She was merely using the guise of us into sensitizing me from my jealousy to openly maintain lingering ties with her old flame. Even if I hadn't seen those chat logs back then, Victoria would have found another excuse to be with Julian. After they returned from their business trip together recently, which was clearly a vacation, though they still frequently went out for meals, drinks, and sports as before, I could sense a subtle shift in their relationship. Fortunately, I no longer cared. A 5-year relationship had reached its end. This farce had to stop. By the time I finished the proposal, the office was empty except for me. I opened my phone and saw Julian had posted several updates to his social media feed. The background was a restaurant. A romantic candlelight dinner sat on the table before them. Victoria elegantly held a knife and fork, cutting Julian's steak for him. The caption read, "Steak cut by the hands of a female president must taste exceptionally good." In the comments, many colleagues praised how sweet they looked. Julian bantered back, further boasting that Victoria, who usually didn't drink, had drunk half a bottle of red wine specifically to celebrate his project's success. The comments section grew even more feverish with speculation. Victoria didn't explain, only replying, as it should be. Someone unaware of the situation asked when they could expect wedding bells. Victoria replied with 3 dots, while Julian posted a cheeky emoji. Unlike before, I didn't get angry about their ambiguous relationship or call Victoria, only to be reprimanded. Instead, I sent her a message informing her the proposal was done, placed the file in her office, and drove home. Back home, I saw a message notification from Victoria. "Sincere, this is Julian. Thanks for your hard work on the project. I'll treat you to dinner sometime." Victoria was always glued to her phone. She'd get furious if I even picked it up to check the time, accusing me of invading her privacy. Yet now she had handed it over to Julian, letting him read our chats and reply to my messages. I let out a short, derisive laugh. Different status in her heart, different treatment indeed. However, I felt unusually calm. Things that used to feel world-shattering now seemed trivial. Feelings change, but hard work never betrays you. I pulled up my calendar and checked the date. Not long ago, while Victoria and Julian were away on their business trip vacation, I had submitted my resignation. As expected, when she was with Julian, her attention was solely on him. She approved it without a second glance. Now, I just had to wait 3 days for the handover to be complete, and I could leave for good. Thinking for a moment, I made a call to my former advisor at the Research Institute abroad, Professor Alistair Finch. I had joined the institute as an outstanding graduate right after university, enjoying excellent benefits. But when Victoria mentioned needing help starting her company, I resigned without hesitation. Professor Finch tried repeatedly to dissuade me, but I resolutely returned to the country to help her build everything from scratch. Looking back now, I realized how foolish I'd been. When the call connected, I explained my intentions. Expecting a lecture, I was surprised when the professor sighed, telling me he already knew about my situation and had been thinking about asking me back for a while. But this time, "Sincere, have you really thought it through?" I nodded. "I have. The resignation is all processed." "Resignation? What resignation?" An exclamation came from behind me. I turned to see Victoria pushing the door open and walking in. "2." I glanced down. Professor Finch had already ended the call. I naturally turned off my phone screen. And a friend, planning to resign from their company. Victoria frowned, suspicious. "What friend discusses work with you this late?" As I pondered how to explain, her phone pinged. It was a message from Julian, saying he'd encountered a small stray cat on his way home and had gone out of his way to buy it a sausage from a store. A smile involuntarily touched Victoria's lips. Seemingly remembering I was still there, Victoria suppressed her smile and addressed me perfunctorily. To spend less time chatting about negative things with friends. Use that time to understand the project better. Her cold tone was completely different from how she'd reacted to Julian's message. I didn't argue back that the project had already been given to Julian. Victoria ignored me, smiling as she texted back while heading to her room. Soon her bright laughter echoed from within. She had completely forgotten that over the years I spent by her side, Working day and night, I had lost touch with all my friends. But perhaps it was for the best. It saved me the trouble of arguing with her. I returned to the small study converted from a storage room and took out the English materials I hadn't finished reading. After 5 years, the research focus at the Institute had shifted. To return, even with Professor Finch's help, my own skills needed to be sharp. Luckily, my foundation was solid, and picking it up again wouldn't take too long. "Are you reading an English journal?" Just as I was engrossed, Victoria entered without me noticing. She reached out, took the journal, flipped through a couple of pages, and tossed it back. She scoffed lightly. "What are you reading this for? Can you even understand it?" "I'm just browsing." I put the materials away, my tone indifferent. "Did you need something?" Previously, whenever Victoria sought me out, I was always enthusiastic. Perhaps caught off guard by my coldness, she hesitated for a moment. Her expression was a little unnatural. "There is something, and Julian just completed a major project. I'm planning to promote him, partly to encourage other employees too. What do you think?" Victoria looked at me. She asked for my thoughts, but I knew she was merely informing me, not truly seeking my opinion. Still, I nodded, and have no objection. "And rewards must be balanced with penalties, otherwise the team is hard to manage. You haven't completed a project in a long time, so I was thinking of temporarily transferring you to an entry-level position. I'll move you back up later. Oh, don't worry, it won't be for long. I'm doing this for the overall good. You're my boyfriend. You should support me, right?" I scoffed internally. So she still didn't know I had resigned. She could deduce Julian's mood from subtle clues and know his preferences through small details. Yet here I was, her supposed boyfriend, whose resignation letter she had personally signed, and she remained utterly clueless. Indeed, care and indifference were evident in just a few words. Seeing my silence, Victoria assumed I was about to argue like before, and her face immediately darkened. "It doesn't matter if you disagree. I've already sent out the notice, and your office has already been given to Julian. Either you accept the transfer, or you leave," she threatened. "But let me give you some advice. The company is preparing to go public. You should think carefully before leaving." Her tone was confident I wouldn't leave. This kind of thing had happened countless times. In just 1 year, thanks to a few words from Julian, my position in the company had plummeted repeatedly. If I could endure it back then, Victoria was certain I'd be even more reluctant to leave now. I gave a bitter smile. I didn't say I disagree. And it settled. Victoria visibly relaxed. If I didn't disagree, then I agreed. Just as she was about to leave, she seemed to notice something and walked back. "And so I remember you used to have our photo together on your desk. Why isn't it there now?" It finally registered with me. Indeed, not just on the desk, but on my room wall. In my wallet, they all held photos of us. I had constantly used them to remind myself that no matter what Victoria did, she loved me. Only after learning about Julian and Victoria's connection did I realize how laughable I'd been. Each of those photos mocked what a clown I was. Not wanting to elaborate, I said calmly, "The frame broke accidentally, so I put it away." "Why are you so clumsy with everything you do?" Victoria frowned in disgust, immediately looking down to check if there were glass shards near her feet. "Make sure you clean this up properly later. Don't want anyone getting hurt." With that, she stood up and left the study. Watching her retreating back, I couldn't help but let out a self-mocking laugh. Of course, she wasn't worried about me. She clearly meant, "Don't let Julian get hurt." This was supposed to be our home, yet she had brought Julian here many times. Initially, she brought him secretly. Later, after I noticed irregularities and questioned her, she immediately produced my proof. They were only discussing business matters and took the opportunity to berate me for being jealous and small-minded. Then, as if in defiance, she started bringing Julian home openly. Over time, I fell into self-doubt. I spent days wondering if I was wrong. Now, thinking back, if I had spent that time pursuing my own goals, I could have succeeded at anything. The next morning, Victoria announced the joyful news of Julian's promotion and the news of my demotion to the lowest level. My colleagues, unaware I had already resigned, congratulated Julian effusively while casting sympathetic glances my way, secretly guessing if I was about to throw another tantrum. Much to their disappointment, I remained calm, as if nothing had happened. Over the next few days, while Victoria threw a celebration dinner for Julian, I was handling my visa application. While they strolled through an amusement park to relax, I was clearing out my belongings. What I needed to take barely filled a suitcase. While they were entertaining clients at a club, being teased into drinking a cross-cup toast, I was completing the handover of all my work. 2 days later, on my last day at the company, I finalized the last procedures with HR personnel. "Before you leave, go to the president's office. Miss Fairchild wants to see you," the HR person said without looking up. I initially wanted to refuse, but then it occurred to me I was leaving tonight. If Victoria went out with Julian as usual and didn't come home, this would be our last meeting. After 5 years together, a proper farewell felt necessary. With that thought, I went upstairs to the president's office. Just as I was about to push the door open, I saw through the glass wall Victoria, in her short skirt, sat on the sofa, while Julian lay back, his head resting intimately on her lap. 3. My steps halted. As I debated whether to discreetly withdraw, Julian spotted me first. He let out a yelp and scrambled to sit up. "Sincere, what are you doing here?" A flicker of nervousness crossed Victoria's face, too. She hastily smoothed her slightly disheveled skirt, then turned on me angrily. "Sincere, who allowed you in here? Didn't I tell you not to come upstairs and disturb me without my permission?" Victoria had indeed stated this rule before, but the original rule was that everyone except Sincere was forbidden from coming upstairs unannounced to disturb her. Back then, I just thought Victoria treated me specially. Now I understood the real meaning, but I was used to it by now. Not wanting to drag things out, I stated calmly, "HR said you wanted to see me." Victoria scoffed, strode to her desk, and furiously pressed the intercom. Less than 2 minutes later, the HR person came upstairs. "Did you tell Sincere I wanted to see him?" Victoria asked coldly. The HR person sensed the tense atmosphere. Looking from Victoria's icy face to Julian, they became so nervous they couldn't speak, finally mumbling, I don't remember. Hearing this, Victoria, like a victorious general, shot me a cold glance and said sarcastically, "Satisfied now, Sincere? Son, I thought you'd actually matured, but you're still so scheming. Since you're so insecure about me, why don't you just move upstairs and watch me constantly? Or maybe put a camera on me. Satisfy that curiosity of yours." I was speechless, unable to defend myself. "Victoria, don't be angry. I'm sure Sincere was just overly concerned. He didn't mean it," Julian interjected, gently patting Victoria's back. He then turned to me. "Sincere, don't misunderstand. I was just really tired earlier, had a bit of a headache. Miss Fairchild was just trying to help me relax so I could get back to work. And everything we do is for the company. Don't get the wrong idea." I looked at his triumphant expression, which seemed desperate for me to get the wrong idea. Though I didn't know the full story, I was certain Julian had orchestrated this. The HR person was diplomatic, knowing Julian was Victoria's favorite. They didn't dare tell the truth when they sensed the tension. But even if they had, Victoria probably wouldn't have believed them. I remained silent. Victoria, however, hadn't vented all her anger. She said furiously, "Don't bother explaining to him, and personal matters are personal matters. Business is business. Since we're in the company now, we follow company rules, and Sincere disregarded company regulations. Dock his entire bonus for this month and half his salary." The HR person hastily tried to interject, "Ms. Fairchild, Sincere has already." She probably wanted to mention my resignation, but before she could finish, Victoria shot her a cold glare. "I don't want to hear any excuses from him. Do as I say." The HR person didn't dare say more and turned to go downstairs. I thought for a moment and prepared to leave too, but then Victoria suddenly stopped me. Perhaps having vented her anger, she seemed calmer now. She said earnestly, "Sincere, I'm not deliberately targeting you, but these are the regulations I established. If I don't penalize you, it will be hard to command respect later." Beside her, Julian nodded in agreement. "Exactly, Sincere. Next time, if you're unsure about something, you should ask Miss Fairchild first. Or really, you could ask me too." Hearing him, Victoria nodded approvingly. "Julian is completely dedicated to the company. He knows more about company matters than anyone." She then shot me another glare. "Not like you. What else do you do besides getting jealous all day? Can't you learn a thing or two from Julian?" "Learn what? Learn how to deliberately interfere in someone else's relationship? Or learn how to steal credit and sabotage others?" I scoffed inwardly, but couldn't be bothered to expose him. Seeing my silence, Victoria thought I'd acknowledged my mistake. She took a couple of steps towards me, adjusted my collar, which wasn't even messy, and said earnestly, "I know what all this fuss is about, and frankly, I'm very disappointed in you. But I have to admit, since I came back this time, you have become much more sensible. As a reward, let's go take wedding photos tomorrow. We can put marriage on the agenda, but don't get too cocky. Marriage is just marriage?" Before she could finish, I let out a soft laugh. I pushed her hand away. I placed the prepared resignation form in front of her. "But we've already broken up. Besides, I've also resigned. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other anymore." Chapter. Julian's eyes lit up for a second. A triumphant smile briefly touched his lips. Though he quickly composed himself, I saw it clearly. "Sincere, that's going a bit too far. After all, you two." "All right, Julian, you can leave now." Before Julian could finish, Victoria cut him off calmly. The rest of Julian's words caught in his throat. He put on a show of urging Victoria not to be angry and to talk things through properly, then reluctantly went downstairs. After he left, Victoria glared at me coldly. "Sincere, are you pushing your luck? I've agreed to marry you. What more do you want? And take back what you said about breaking up. And I'm not signing that resignation form. Tear it up now, and I'll pretend I never saw it." Seeing Victoria's confident expression, I found it both laughable and pathetic. I knew her behavior was partly due to my past tolerance. This had happened many times before. Whenever Victoria offered an olive branch, I would meekly accept it, continuing our facade of a loving relationship. I had hoped to maintain our bond through peace, forgetting that constant spinelessness only emboldened her to push further. She paid close attention to Julian's every move, but ignored everything about me. To this day, she still didn't know she had already signed my resignation form. I chuckled softly and held the resignation form right in front of her eyes. "But you already signed it. All the procedures and handover are complete. I can leave today." Victoria initially looked dismissive, but when her eyes fell on her signature on the form, her expression changed. "Sincere, did you forge my signature?" Her accusation made me laugh. "So signed it yourself?" "Impossible. How could I not remember signing this?" "Sincere, do you realize that forging a signature is against the law?" "If I wanted to pursue this, I could call the police." She took out her phone, pretending she was about to dial 911. This was her trump card. Whether it was about Julian or other issues, whenever things escalated at the company, she would threaten me with the police. She thought I was afraid of the police getting involved. She didn't know that back when the company was small and trust was fragile, I feared that involving the police would cause panic and damage the company's credibility. Besides, back then, I loved her and didn't want to reach a point of no return over such matters, so I chose to back down. But now, I was leaving. We had broken up. What did I have left to fear? "Fine, then call the police." Seeing my face remain impassive, without the pleading she expected, Victoria's hand paused mid-dial. You're really not afraid? What is there to be afraid of? Hearing this, Victoria's lips moved. She couldn't help but scrutinize her signature on the form again. I offered a helpful reminder. So you approved this resignation while you were on your business trip. Victoria's shoulders tensed. As if finally remembering, her face turned deathly pale in an instant. Her lips trembled, and it took her a long moment to force out, "So this is why you're insisting on resigning? Well, let me tell you, I was busy then. I didn't pay attention to that signature. It doesn't count." I had to laugh. On what grounds? It followed proper procedure. Every step was correct. Why shouldn't it count? Because I said so. She tried to bulldoze her way through like before. This time, instead of getting speechless with anger, I took out my phone. Then you can tell that to the police. I wasn't looking for a fight, but I was prepared to burn bridges if she insisted on being unreasonable. Seeing me actually dial, Victoria panicked. She quickly snatched my phone and ended the call. "Sincere, are you crazy?" "I'm not crazy. I just want to know if the law recognizes your because I said so." Perhaps never having seen me push back so relentlessly, Victoria was visibly flustered. She bit her lip. "All right, Sincere, stop messing around. I know you're bothered by Julian. Starting tomorrow, I won't meet him alone anymore, okay? End our wedding ceremony. I'll book it right now." She took out her phone. "I've been looking at this wedding planning company for a while now. After coming back from the trip, I wanted to discuss the wedding with you anyway. Look." She held the phone in front of me, showing me her chat history with the customer service representative. I glanced at it. It was indeed her discussing wedding details with the planner. But halfway through, there was a message where she asked the planner if they had blue-themed wedding dresses and suits. I remembered blue as Julian's favorite color, and I had previously told Victoria it was the color I disliked the most. So, who was this wedding really being planned for? The answer was obvious. I gave a sarcastic smile and said calmly, "All right, my flight is tonight. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving." And I left the keys to the apartment in the mailbox. Let's not contact each other unless absolutely necessary in the future, and even then, try not to. Without paying her any further attention, I turned to leave. Just as I opened the office door, Julian, who had been eavesdropping outside, stumbled forward into the room. "Sorry, Victoria. I was worried you two might be arguing because of me, so I—" He looked helpless, his expression aggrieved. "Sincere, I overheard you saying you're leaving because of me. Please don't do that. Victoria loves you very much. She can't live without you. I apologize. I'll leave the company today, all right?" He made a show of grabbing a blank piece of A4 paper from Victoria's desk, pretending to write a resignation letter. Watching his over-the-top performance, I found it comical. But typically, Victoria couldn't see through it. She anxiously snatched the paper and pen from Julian's hand, declaring righteously, "'Tis has nothing to do with you, you're innocent. If anyone should leave, it shouldn't be you. But if Sincere leaves, what will happen to the company?" Julian feigned concern. "I refuse to believe the company can't function without Sincere Clark." Victoria shot me a cold look. Perhaps spurred on by Julian's offer to leave, she now showed no intention of holding me back. She spoke to me coldly. "Sincere, think carefully. The company will carry on just fine without you. But once you leave, you might not find another boss who treats you as well as I have. As if you want to leave, I won't stop you." Before she could finish, I strode out of the office. Victoria's furious voice followed me. "Sincere, don't you regret this?" Naturally, I wouldn't regret it. That evening, I took my luggage to the airport and boarded a flight overseas. Upon arrival that night, Professor Finch helped arrange everything at the Institute. The next day, I smoothly rejoined the research facility, continuing the dream I once pursued. Back when Victoria first mentioned liking robotics, I chose it as my major at the beginning of university and dedicated myself to research afterward. Over time, her interests changed again and again, but through daily study, I fell deeper and deeper in love with the field. Even though I had spent years at Victoria's company doing work unrelated to robotics, I always kept up with developments in the field during my spare time. Therefore, picking up the research again didn't feel too daunting. During this period, Victoria sent a few more messages, essentially implying she still didn't believe I would actually leave her and offering a few more olive branches. I didn't reply. Victoria then sent me a couple of photos. It was Julian's transfer notice, and I've investigated. It wasn't me who approved your resignation. It was Julian who made an operational error and approved it. But he didn't know the applicant was you, and I've transferred him to logistics now. You won't touch company operations again. You've sulked long enough, haven't you? Soon after, Julian also sent me a long apology message via text. It was lengthy and seemed sincere, but I could still see it was a message with a hidden meaning. Carefully crafted sentences contained subtle mockery directed at me. Clearly, Victoria had demanded he write it, and Victoria had forwarded it without even reading it herself. Previously, the slightest thing I did would make Victoria suspect I was targeting Julian. Now Julian was openly insulting me, and Victoria turned a blind eye. I scoffed, unsurprised and unwilling to waste my precious time on them any further. I deleted his contact directly. I thought the matter was over, but then one night, Victoria suddenly initiated a video call. 6. On screen, her previous confidence was gone, replaced by a haggard look. Even her voice sounded weary. Sincere, can we stop messing around? It's been so long. Let's make up, all right? Hearing her almost subservient tones startled me slightly. Simultaneously, I found it amusing. Even now, she still thought I was just messing around with her. I didn't stop you from leaving because I didn't care. It was because I knew you needed a break, some time to yourself. Sincere, we've been together for 5 years. Are you really willing to end it just like this? Before I could speak, her tone softened. Let's not talk about unhappy things. Come back tomorrow. I actually have a surprise for you. On something you've been dreaming about for years. I wanted to wait until you returned, but I'm too impatient. Let me give you a sneak peek. With that, Victoria moved the camera slightly. It revealed a room lavishly decorated with vast swaths of tulips. She smiled, holding up a ring box and waved it in front of the camera. You always complained I wouldn't marry you, right? This time when you come back, I'll propose to you. The flowers are white tulips, your favorite. The ring is a DR, the kind you can only customize once per person. I've even invited reporters. I plan to put the proposal video online. So no, it's rare for a woman to propose to a man, but isn't this all to coax you? You should be able to feel my sincerity now, right? Victoria chattered on endlessly. I looked at the large clusters of vibrant tulips behind her. This time she remembered correctly, tulips were my favorite flower, but white tulips symbolize pure, flawless love. Seeing them now, I only felt irony. I'm not planning on coming back, I told her calmly. Not planning on coming back? Victoria paused, then sighed. I knew it. You're still angry. Fine then. I'll come find you. We'll have the proposal ceremony abroad. Sincere, I'm really at my wit's end with you. You need to know this is the first time I've ever compromised for a man. You should be secretly thrilled. When my patience with Julian isn't even 1/10 of what I have for you. Just as Victoria was about to launch into another animated speech. But you've misunderstood. I took out the documents beside me and held them up to the camera. I've emigrated. I'm never going back. 7. When I ended the call, Victoria on the other end seemed not to have processed it yet. She remained frozen, stunned, the ring box falling from her hand to the floor with a soft thud. But I knew. She would understand eventually, and she would recover quickly. From the moment she chose to protect Julian by repeatedly wronging me, she should have foreseen this day. Victoria's affairs no longer affected me. I pushed the call out of my mind and threw myself wholeheartedly into my research. Perhaps finally realizing I was determined to break up, Victoria stopped trying to win me back. She began flaunting her relationship with Julian openly, traveling everywhere with him, showing off their affection, and live streaming their blissful moments on social media. We became like two parallel plot lines in a TV show. While they celebrated landing a deal over a candlelight dinner, I was in the lab testing software. While they were shopping, hitting up trendy restaurants, I was racking my brains, battling a technical glitch. While they were out entertaining, getting drunk, announcing their relationship on social media, and accepting everyone's blessings, I had a flash of insight, finding a novel approach to a problem. A month later, hard work paid off. We finally overcame the long-standing challenge of enabling robots to autonomously maintain balance in dynamic environments. Although the high cost remained a significant hurdle, technological progress is inherently slow and profound. No one knew what the future held, but everyone was ecstatic about that day's success. That evening, Professor Finch was overjoyed and booked a 5-star hotel to celebrate the breakthrough. After several rounds of drinks, his face was flushed, and he gripped my hand, rambling on, lamenting my abrupt departure years ago. If I had been there, he mused, perhaps this challenge would have been conquered 2 years earlier. He pulled me forward, proclaiming to the assembled junior and senior researchers that I was his most outstanding student. I felt a bit embarrassed. At the same time, I did feel regret for myself. Those 5 years, potentially my prime time to shine, had ultimately amounted to nothing. But thankfully it wasn't too late now. After the celebration ended, we all headed home. As I approached the yard of my rented house, I saw a familiar figure. Thinking the alcohol was playing tricks on me, I rubbed my eyes. But Victoria saw me first and hurried towards me, her steps unsteady. As she got closer, I smelled the alcohol on her breath. She seemed to have drunk quite a lot. I frowned slightly. She stopped less than a meter away from me and seemed to have gained some weight. Strange. She had never paid attention to my appearance before. Under the streetlight, I saw her eyes were slightly red. I smiled faintly. No worries, eating well, sleeping well. Naturally put on some weight. I used to be quite thin. At 182 centimeters tall, I weighed just over 100 lbs. Between taking care of Victoria and simmering with resentment over her favoritism towards other men, I couldn't eat properly and developed mild anorexia. Only after coming abroad and recovering over time did I return to a normal weight level. "What are you doing here?" I looked at her calmly, as if seeing a stranger. Victoria seemed to sense it too. She bit her lip. "Sincere, Julian and I broke up, and I've thought it over. I'm willing to give up everything and come abroad with you." 8. I know you're still angry with me, but I realize I was wrong. I'll figure out how to deal with the company back home, and then we can forget everything and start over. I looked at her determined expression and found it amusing. Are you figuring out how to deal with it, or is the company already about to declare bankruptcy and liquidate? Although I hadn't been following Victoria's affairs, a former colleague I was still friends with occasionally messaged me with updates. She told me that not long after I left, a project Julian was responsible for ran into serious problems, resulting in a massive compensation payout. Victoria and Julian had spent considerable effort pleading with the client. Eventually worn down, the client agreed to give them one more chance, demanding the project be redone. That coincided with the time Victoria had video called me. I only learned about this later. I wasn't sure if her apology then was genuine or just another attempt to use me by pretending to reconcile. But it didn't matter anymore. Later, Julian, eager to redeem himself, volunteered to take charge again. Victoria gave him another chance. However, the project ended in a severe incident upon completion. Millions of users' data were leaked. Victoria not only had to compensate the client but also the affected users. The total damages amounted to at least tens of millions of dollars. It meant years of her hard work were about to be wiped out. Seemingly shocked that I knew about this, Victoria stared at me, stunned. Her lips trembled, and large tears rolled down her pale cheeks. "I'm sorry, Sincere. I was wrong. I should have listened to you back then. Don't push me away again. Let me stay by your side. Let's start over, please." With that, Victoria suddenly dropped to her knees before me with a thud. In the past, I would have been unable to bear it and would have done anything to help her. But now I felt a profound calmness, as if I were merely an outsider. Perhaps sensing my reaction, Victoria didn't back down. She rolled up her sleeve, revealing stark scars on her fair arm. I recognized them too. The scars formed my name, Sincere. Sincere, I admit I wronged you. But after you left, I suffered too. And every night, seeing the empty room, I couldn't stop thinking about you. Every time I thought of you, I'd carve your name onto my arm. Then I only got together with Julian to provoke you, to make you come back. The person I love has always been you. I never thought about breaking up with you, and I never imagined you wouldn't actually come back. I regret it now. I really, really regret it." Victoria wept uncontrollably, clinging tightly to my leg as if afraid I would suddenly disappear. "Curse me, hit me. I deserve it all. I'm willing to endure it. But please don't leave me again, okay?" I was about to push her away, but then, changing my mind, I had another idea. "All right, but I need you to agree to one condition." 9. "What condition?" Victoria grasped at the lifeline, her eyes brightening. I took out my phone, dialed 911 and handed it to her. "See, I have proof that Julian embezzled company funds, evidence of his economic crimes within the company. Call the police now. Make him pay the price he deserves." Hearing this, Victoria froze. "If we get back together, the company becomes our joint asset, protecting our legitimate rights and interests. There should be no hesitation." I pressed the phone into her hand. Victoria hesitated, not pressing the call button. "Sincere, Julian is still young. He worked hard for the company, even if he didn't make huge contributions." "And what about me?" I looked at her mockingly. "Own to wrongs I suffered back then, the losses. Are they just forgotten? Besides, with him running free out there, how can I be sure you two have truly severed ties? And if you send him to prison, I'll be able to be with you without any lingering worries." I whispered close to her ear, like a demon's temptation. Victoria's eyes widened as she looked at me, my words seemingly giving her courage. She took a deep breath, clenched her jaw, and pressed the connect button. "Hello?" However, the instant the call connected, before the operator could finish speaking, Victoria suddenly slammed the phone down, hanging up forcefully and tossing it aside. "No, Sincere, I can agree to anything else, but not this. This concerns his whole life. If he really goes to prison, his entire life is ruined." I laughed. I had expected her choice. I slowly walked over, bent down, and picked up the phone. "See, even now your heart holds two people. It's too crowded. Victoria, your love isn't pure. It isn't clean. And since you choose him, don't come back here again. It's better for both of us." Victoria started to say something more, but just then her phone rang. After listening, her eyes widened in shock. She muttered an "I'm sorry," and turned and ran off. Watching her retreating back, I felt a strange sensation. It felt like an unprecedented release, as if something had been completely stripped away from my chest. It wasn't until the next day when I received a message that I finally understood the reason for that feeling. 10. Early the next morning, I received a message from a former colleague. He told me Victoria had been in a very serious car accident, nearly died, but was saved by passers-by who rushed her to the hospital. She had pulled through. What surprised me was that after waking up, Victoria seemed dazed for a long while, staring blankly. Then the first thing she did upon regaining clarity was to take Julian Hayes to court. I learned later that the day Victoria had rushed off so frantically, the call she received was from Julian, asking for help. But when Victoria arrived, Julian revealed his true colors. He attempted to murder her, planning to stage it as an accidental car crash to collect a large life insurance payout. Luckily, passers-by intervened, saving Victoria's life. I believe that this time she finally saw Julian for who he truly was. In court, Victoria acted completely out of character. Resolute, armed with ample evidence, she mercilessly pursued the case, ensuring Julian faced the harshest possible sentence. Julian pleaded and broke down in tears multiple times, but this time her heart remained unmoved. Afterward, she wrote a will, transferring all her assets to my name. Then she jumped from the roof of a 30-story building. At that time, our research had just achieved another breakthrough. I pondered for a couple of seconds, then donated her entire estate to the research institute in her name. Let the dead rest. After all that, everything that had happened now felt like an illusion. End.